Hello, my name is Rigoberto Garza, and today I will be presenting on the application of cognitive behavioral therapy. So, what is cognitive behavioral therapy? It is basically a type of psychotherapeutic treatment that can be used to address faulty or unhelpful ways of thinking. Some people might refer to it as automatic thoughts. These are just patterns of ways that people have learned to cope with a particular event. Usually it's focused around PTSD, and that's going to be my target intervention. And there is a lot of evidence to support cognitive behavioral therapy helping with situations in which PTSD has occurred. I'm going to introduce you to Anne Smith, and Anne is suffering from PTSD. She is a 27-year-old mother of 2 children who has been experiencing PTSD symptoms for about 5 years now. She has consistently avoided thoughts or images that are related to her oldest child dying in an accident with a drunk driver. However, over the years, Anne has excuse me, and has increasingly become depressed. She's come to rely on alcohol. She's having difficulties at her work. Also, she's struggling with her relationship with her husband. So she's got a whole bunch of things going on, but even Anne can kind of trail back to certain events that happened in her life that have led her to the point where she is now. In my video, you will see me utilizing a sacrotic dialogue technique. Sacrotic dialogue is used to help clarify the thoughts that are occurring. In Anne's situation, she's got these automatic thoughts of guilt and feeling like she could have done something differently in order to bring about a different result. In other words, like anything she would have done differently that day would have had a positive result in her mind. She's just beaten herself up thinking that her son is dead because of almost like a conscious thought that she had or decision she made to cause that. So there's a lot of guilt going on here. Exploring the origin of the source is going to be critical here, because in Anne's mind, again, she's got these thoughts like she knew what was going to happen and she chose to do it anyways, which is a terrible place to be. And then also looking at alternative views, things that that she can choose to look at differently, going back to what she knew at the time. Again, the target intervention here is going to be PTSD through the use of sacrotic questioning. We're going to help Anne arrive at her own conclusion. In other words, through the use of homework and other interventions, we're going to help her avoid these automatic thoughts that she keeps beating herself up about. We're going to help her develop a new train of thought through cognitive behavioral therapy. Automatic thoughts are just, again, like instantaneous or habitual thoughts that have developed over time because she's trained her brain to think that way. And through the sacrotic thinking, we're going to help her just become more aware and also know what the impact of having these thoughts is on her. Also, these thoughts have been so well learned that they're habitual. She just does it without even thinking. It takes no conscious effort. These are like these repeating, co-occurring thoughts that are having a really big effect on her mood and her daily functioning, to the point where she can't even function anymore. She can't go to work. She's relying on alcohol. It's affecting every relationship around her, and she is in a very bad place right now. This is Anne and me, and I'm going to start the video about where we start getting into it. So let's see here. This are a thought. So as her therapist, I'm going to be starting the dialogue here, diving into something that I pulled from one of those worksheets. So with that, I will introduce Anne, and we're just going to dive right in. So Anne, can you tell me why, Anne, do you mind if I ask you a few questions about this thought that you have noticed? I should have had Timmy stay the night and not insisted on him coming home that night.
Sure.
Okay, can you tell me why you wanted Timmy to come home that night?
I wanted him to be home that night because he had soccer practice in the morning, and he would have had to get up a lot earlier had I gone to pick him up in the morning and gotten less sleep.
Okay, so you were trying to make things easier for Timmy in the long run, so that he would have a good night's sleep and be well rested before soccer practice, right?
Yes, usually when Timmy got up early, he struggles in the morning. He really liked to sleep.
Okay, that's helpful for me to understand. So in light of what you knew as Timmy's mom, and you just described the reasoning for it, why do you think you should have had Timmy stay the night?
If I hadn't insisted on Timmy coming home, this wouldn't have happened. It's my fault that we died.
Well, while it is certainly sad that Timmy passed away, I want us to think about the idea that you should have had him stay the night, and that you insisted to go pick him up, and consequently that you feel it's your fault. If you think back about what you knew at the time, not what you know now, 5 years after what happened, did you have any idea that there may have been a drunk driver on the road when you decided to have him come home?
No, it was the middle of the week and we live out in the country where there isn't much traffic.
Okay, so prior to the crash, you hadn't seen anything suspicious and had no reason to suspect that there was a drunk driver on the road.
No.
Do you remember the last time that there even was a drunk driving incident near where you live?
The last time we had a drunk driving incident was 10 years ago, and nobody died in that accident. Ever since then, they have increased patrol cars in the county and specifically look for drunk drivers.
Okay, so in that scenario then, wouldn't it be the extra patrolman's job to be scanning the roadway for potential drunk drivers, not yours?
Yes, but I shouldn't have been so insistent on Timmy coming home that night.
Okay, so before we determine that, how could you have known that there were drunk drivers on the road that night, or that it was even your job to know?
Oh, I guess it was really no way to know for sure.
So it had been 10 years since the last drunk driving incident. You would have still been in high school, right?
Right.
You'll have to be honest with me here. Were you even aware of the last drunk driving incident when it occurred 10 years ago?
Absolutely not.
What about other suspicious driving conditions in that area?
No, not really. Like I said, we live in the country. We usually use open roads.
So in light of the fact that you didn't see anything at the time when you decided to bring Timmy home for the night, and that there hadn't been any suspicious activity in at least 10 years, help me understand why you wouldn't have decided to go get Timmy. Again, based on what you knew at the time.
I hadn't thought about the fact that we never have accidents of any kind really out in the country, and when we do, it's a big event. I probably wasn't even aware of the last drunk driving incident because I was still in high school and oblivious to such events. it makes me feel better about deciding to bring Tim home that night.
Can you describe the type of emotion you have when you say it makes me feel better?
I guess I feel a little less guilty.
That makes sense to me. So as we go back and more accurately see the reality of what was really going on at the time of this crash, it is important to notice that it makes you feel better emotionally. In fact, I was wondering if you had ever considered that in this situation, you actually did what you were supposed to do and did something, and that something worse could have happened had you chosen to not go get Timmy.
No, I haven't thought about that.
Obviously, this was an area that is typically safe, where rarely anything exciting happens. If your husband hadn't been home to stay home with the other children, maybe you all would have been in the car.
I hadn't thought about that either.
That's okay. Many people don't think through what could have happened.
So as you can see here, the technique that I utilized was Socratic questioning. I asked Anne a series of questions that would kind of lead her down a train of thought that puts her back in that day and what she knew that day, not what she had trained her brain to think. One thing that I also want to mention is Anne had been doing homework and we didn't just dive right in. There had been some rapport building and additional homework that she'd been doing in order for us to kind of get to this place where we can explore in depth what she was going through that day. So this is a compilation of a bunch of sessions and the consequent work from those. The way I would evaluate my outcome from this is I think I did a pretty good job at isolating that particular event that Anne is struggling with, and did a good job. She seemed receptive and open, and that's because we've had sessions before. This rarely occurs on the first session, depending on the client and rapport and how ready they are, but usually it's something that happens over time. It's gradual, and I think it went pretty well. I think that we were able to identify the target, which was PTSD, and we were able to address it. And that's what you're seeing in the video here. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you.